Hi everyone, in today's video I am going to show you how to blend with Copic markers, but not only with Copics, with any kind of alcohol markers. However, Copics are the pens I have, so those are the ones I use. But first we are going to talk about the papers, because papers is very important when it comes to marker coloring. You want a dense and a shiny paper. My favorite one is the Make It Color Blending Cardstock. I have used it for years and I love it. But you can just as well use the Express It blending card, which is the blending cardstock that the Copic makers have created. Or you can use the Hammermill Color Copper digital cover, which is used by many of my fellow colorists from the States. And I actually have a couple of papers and I'm going to try it. For the cards, I have stamped them up with the FAB-BOO-LOUS stamp set by MFT in some Memento TUXEDO black ink. And let's start with the solids. So for the solid coloring, I have chosen to go in real time because I want you to see how I color. And I'm starting off showing you how not to do. And that is going in and doing small pieces here and small pieces there. And you can see already from this first layer that it's kind of splotchy. So I'm going over it again, but not completely. So it's still splotchy. So for my second ghost, I'm going to go in with a darker pen because I wanted to show you the difference between blending with a lighter pen and with a darker pen. And we're going to get 3 different versions of this. So in this case, I'm going up and down, kind of overlapping every little stroke a little bit with the previous ones. And as long as you work fast enough, but not too fast, and the ink is still wet when you go over it, you will actually not see the stripes that much. And then I'm going in with a much even darker pen. And usually the darker colors are a little bit harder to get a good solid with. And the reason for that is that they have more pigment and less ink, so they will dry faster. And you will see that when we go to the blends, because blending out a dark tone to a mid tone can be a little bit harder than the mid to the light. It also depends on how much pigment difference, then density of pigment difference that actually is in the pens. If you will get a good solid also depends, or blend even, depends on how much ink you have in your marker. If you have a marker that is drying out, it will be much harder to blend and to make a solid because you need that alcohol in it. And I do not recommend just filling up your pen with alcohol, because not only will you destroy your marker, because the alcohol in a Copic marker and the alcohol that we usually use, like rubbing alcohol, is not compatible, and the rubbing alcohol will actually make the pigment kind of go a little bit nuts, and it can just make your pen very sticky. Instead, if your pen is going out, either buy a new one or buy a refill. I love the refills. I have a couple of them for my mostly used colors, and I'm still collecting them, trying to get that full amount. As you see here with this dark red, it actually did get a little bit stripy, so I'm just going over once again, just a little bit faster, and you see, no stripes anymore. That is how you get a really good solid. So we're going to do another green, and the reason why I've chosen these colors are very much that I'm very much in the Halloween spirit. It is mid-October and I love cute ghosts. I love cute Halloween. I don't like scary Halloween, but I love cute Halloween. So I've chosen those colors, and also I'm using these 4 colors for each of these ghosts because I'm going to use them to mix them later in my blending. Also, this will be the last poor little ghost that you will see, because I forgot to move out the paper for the last ghost, so you will not see that coloring. Sorry, I'm a little bit, haven't been recording for a while, but we're getting to that. So that is all my solids. You can go over to my blog if you want to see the close-ups of this. And yes, I haven't really kept into the lines, but it doesn't really matter. Now we're gonna do the blends, and I have chosen another ghost, and that is this little ghost witch. So we're gonna start with the green. I have sped this up twice so that you don't have to sit here forever. For a blend, you start with a tone. In this case, it's a 2-color blend, and I'm doing kind of the shading with the darkest color, and then I go over with a lighter color. And in this case, I'm actually going over completely over the lightest colors, but a little bit extra where the 2 colors meet, and that made a pretty good blend. For the second blend part here, I am going with 3 colors, so a dark, a mid, and a light tone. And again, I'm overlapping all of the colors, or mostly the dark and the mid, and then just filling in and overlapping the light and the mid tone to make my blend. And to make my third blend, I'm using an even darker color. I'm using 4 colors for this. I'm going over completely with the darkest mid-tone on the darkest color, and then I'm going over about almost fully of the darker mid-tone with the lighter mid-tone, and kind of just enlarging those areas more and more towards the middle. So keep the highlight in the middle and on the top of the arms of them. So this is very good practice that anyone can do, but it's a very, very good practice, is to go through and pick out 2 to 4 colors and just practice on your simpler stamps to get a good blend. Now, small areas are easier to blend, bigger areas will be more complex to blend, just for the reason that with the solids, and that is to get a good blend, you want the inks to still be wet when you come in with the second, third, and the fourth color. This is also one of the reasons why I actually go over fully with the mid dark tone over the dark tone, because then I add a little bit more moisture to the darkest tone, and that will make that all of these will blend much better and will keep that area much wetter longer, because then as I said earlier, the pigment can move a little bit and kind of even themselves out, and that is how you get a good blend. So I'm now done the green, the orange, and I'm going to go in with the grays. So again, I'm going on the sides with the darker colors, and just moving myself in color by color inwards, and I use 1 color, 2 color, 3 colors, and 4 colors, just to show you the difference in dimension. And if you keep your blends pretty close to each other, the pens pretty close to each other in lightness, they will be easier to blend. The further away they are, the darker and opposite lighter, the higher contrast between the pens, the harder it will be to blend them, and you will come to a point where the pens are not blendable anymore, because the alcohol will push the pigment down unevenly and you will get a very blotchy result. But yeah, this is the little witches. I filled in their brooms, and yeah, now off to the cross blends. These blends are a little bit complex, but can give you a really cool look if you use them. So the first one I'm going to do is the bottom layer cross blend. I'm using a completely different color at the bottom, and then I'm adding my other colors on top. This will tint the other colors with the color I have on the bottom. For these first 4, I'm using 1 tone at the bottom and then the grays on top. And the trick with this is making sure that the bottom color that you choose isn't darker than the lightest of your lights. Because if your tone is lighter than the lightest of your lights in the rest of the blending combination, or if it's darker than the lightest of the lights, it can turn out blotchy. Again, the alcohol will push at the pigment unevenly and you will get a very blotchy result. While if you keep it about in the same level value level or grayness level, lightness level, what we want to call it, then you will be able to get really cool effects. So for this first time, I'm just using grays, but you can use any colors. When I started, I only had a very few amount of markers, and I wanted to do a little bit of a kind of older look of a coloring of a card. So I went over with a light yellow, I think it was like Y21 or something like that, as the bottom color, and then I just did all the coloring on top of it with other different colors, and then it looked a little bit like antique because of that little bit of a lighter yellow tone in the background. But here I just use the colors I've used before together with the grays and a purple and a blue, because they're kind of cool colors for Halloween. So for my second row, I'm going to show you how to give a little bit extra dimension by using a complete different color as the shadow. So shadows have a tendency to go a little bit more towards the blue, just because the lack of light will turn things a little bit blue. So the first, I'm using a rather dark blue marker underneath my greens. On the second one, I'm using a red marker underneath my orange, and this is really close to each other, but it actually looks pretty good. For my kind of orange red hair, I usually use browns, reddish browns and browns as kind of the darkest layers, and then towards the lighter oranges, and those browns will tone down the orange and make it like an auburn hair. For the third, I'm using purple with pink. I probably should have chosen a little bit of a lighter purple in this case, but I kind of like it anyway. It got a very much contrast. And then I'm using the same purple again, but with blue. Again, it's not the super easiest to blend out, but I like that result also. It gives it a little bit of a pop, a little bit more contrast. And for the last one, I'm actually going to do a gradient with two different colors. And this is much easier with lighter color, and therefore I chose lighter colors. So I'm doing green and blue at the top. Then I'm using the same blue at the top of the second pumpkin with a purple at the bottom. And then what I do is I go to the middle with both of the colors, and then I carefully flick the marker on top of the other. For the last one, I realized when I put down the green that it was much darker than I had realized. So I go in with a darker pink on top of it, and it almost looks like a watermelon. But hey, watermelon pumpkin ghosts. Isn't that kind of cute? Well, that was the last one. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please thumbs it up. If you like these kinds of videos, please comment down below and tell me so. And give me some tips and tricks of what you want to see more like this. So, goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.